Canadian Navy in critical state while moving forward with military surveillance planes. This is the Great White North Report.
I'm in love with the system. Never going home. I'm in love.
Alright, so after a couple of weeks off, getting right back into what I love about Canada, and it turns out that the Canadian Navy could fail to meet readiness commitments, says its commander. So Navy needs to enroll 1,200 new people each year to address its personnel problems. This is at the same time where we're building new ships to replace old ships and thinking of increasing the size of our Navy. My niece, I know she works for the Canadian Navy in the reserves. So the commander of the Royal Canadian Navy has released a new video warning the force is in a critical state with ships that are beyond their life cycles and severe shortage of sailors to operate them. This is what happens when we do not replace old, obsolete equipment, and we keep passing it on from one government to the next and changing our minds. Historically, we have risen to every challenge, so I'm confident we'll find a way to get through this, according to Vice Admiral Agnes Topshee. But it might not meet its readiness commitments next year and beyond, though he tried to strike an optimistic tone about a very bright future. So it highlights the Navy's priorities while providing a fair and honest assessment of the state of the Royal Canadian Navy. We have let our Navy slide tremendously since the end of World War II to now. We are but a shell or a shadow of our former self. We built up our Navy till it was one of the biggest in the world, and now it's one of the smallest for a country our size. I think Australia has a better Navy than us. Of course, they have different priorities. So there's a chart of naval occupations and their current staffing levels showing that many roles have vacancy rates above 20%. The Canadian Armed Forces Recruitment Wing has failed to meet its targets for more than 10 years. 10 years, that's pretty bad. Airforce and Army all are in similar situations. The West Coast Fleet is suffering because there's a lack of qualified people to maintain and operate the ships, forcing the Navy to prioritize its Halifax class instead. Shortage of technicians, meaning only one of the new Arctic and offshore patrol ships can be in use at any one time, even though 4 are ready. That's nuts. That's bad. We got 4 new ships, and only 1 can be used at any time because there's not enough people to go around. Challenge is to get fully staffed the vessels that are currently being built under the National Shipbuilding Strategy. So we need 1.2 thousand recruits needed each year. 98 people are part of a recent pilot project that allows recruits to sign on with the Navy for 1 year, and another 400 are in the recruiting process. That's not a lot. Improvement in the recruitment of indigenous peoples and other minorities. Well, if we didn't give free citizenship so readily, there's some places where you couldn't become a citizen until you actually did serve in the military. There have been countries like that. Not saying we should do it here. The Canadian Armed Forces says it has fallen short of about 16,000 troops in the regular and reserve forces across all branches of the military. Another 10,000 soldiers do not have the training they need to be deployed. At this time, it comes at a time where the Liberal government is overspent and they're trying to cut costs, and the defense program has been asked to cut $1 billion from their budget. So General Wayne Eyre ordered a halt to all non-essential activities to focus on boosting recruitment and retention. One of the things we need to do is stop sending all our troops on peacekeeping missions. The government is asking the armed forces to do more at the same time. We've got them deployed in the Indo-Pacific in both our NORAD and NATO responsibilities. There are significant challenges, but I think we're up to the challenges. One of the things I noticed is that Canada could not fight World War II again. If another world war broke out, Canada could not fight it like it did in World War II because the people would not be behind it. Those protests you see all over our big cities just because Hamas attacked Israel shows you just how divisive that can be. We couldn't put that whole commitment that we had back in World War II. Now the defense minister, Bill Blair, he says there's going to be enough sailors for new fleets when they're built. But Liberal John McKay of the House Defense, he said he accused the media and Canadian public for not caring enough about the military to make it a priority. Well, because we allowed wokeness to get into our system. Hell, there's people that want to defund the military in the NDP. Defund the military and become a quasi-police force. Yeah, that works out well. As for equipment, the Navy must extend the life of its Halifax-class ships for at least another 15 years until the new service combatants are ready to take their place. Well, if you opened up a 4th and 5th shipyard, or have it modularly made in other places, that wouldn't be such a problem. We could do it faster. Now, each of these new ships will require 2 to 3 years of trials and testing before it's ready for use. Now, the Halifax class has already passed its 30-year lifespan because successive Liberal governments have always pushed it back and canceled things that the Conservatives have tried to do. My idea would be simple. Raise the pay across the board, so raise salaries everywhere. In fact, soldiers and sailors should be paid more than the regular people make at a factory. Pay them more, offer free education after you've done so many years of service. So if you do 4 years in the military, you get 4 years of education paid for. Create more housing for the military. It doesn't have to be grand. If they're single, they can be housed in dormitories. It's not a big deal. A lot of university kids spend 2-3 years in a dormitory anyway. Or in even shittier places. Make housing for the military. That's free. Other than you pay your phone bill. You have any extra food costs. You could also make it that for people who have minor criminals could have their record expunged if they serve so many years in the military. I know it makes for, you might get some unsavory characters, but hey. Or you can even introduce conscription so that everyone between the ages of 18 to 20, so many of them have to serve regardless. It's not a perfect system, but it happens. If you don't finish high school, there you go. If you're 18, you're not done high school yet, you don't know what you're doing, military is a great way to go. So those are some ideas I would float around. Universal conscription is something that many people do not want, but it works in places like South Korea. They have it. That was divisive in World War II, so I don't suggest doing conscription right now. Moving on, we got the Canada moving forward with a sole source contract to replace military surveillance planes. Government facing calls to launch open and fair competition for multi-billion-dollar contract, which will take months or if not years. They should have a timeline. You have this much time to get your bid in. We're gonna look at it, make a decision. If you don't like it, tough. Can't sue the government. The federal government will award a multi-billion-dollar sole source contract to Boeing to replace its aging military service planes. Two sources confirm a decision made amid public complaints to launch an open and fair competition. When asked about the deal, ministers will address the issue. Okay, Mike Trudeau. The announcement is expected on Thursday, the same day Boeing's offer was set to expire. So we're seeking to replace the CP-140 Aurora fleet, which is ancient, I believe, because my great uncle flew on those as a radar operator before he became base commander at Comox. I believe I have some shots of the Auroras flying, doing over a submarine. So these Auroras were used to protect Canada's sovereignty along the coastline. Originally procured 50 years ago, the aging planes are slated to retire from service in 2030. So again, biggest problem in Canada, we continue to keep our aging equipment. The U.S. Congress approved possible sale to Canada for up to 16 Boeing P-8A patrol aircraft associated equipment worth up to $5.9 billion US or $8 billion Canadian. Again, these are things that cannot be put on hold forever. Federal government said Boeing's Poseidon is the only current available aircraft that meets the military's needs, including anti-submarine warfare. I think the Canadian Navy and Air Force is too entrenched with the anti-submarine warfare, which is still important, but I think surface equipment, we do need a better surface fleet that's multi-dimensional. What we need is a submarine fleet. So, of course, Unifor and the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers took to the Parliament Hill alongside Bloc Québécois MP to add their voices to growing demands for a competitive procurement process. No, this has to be done now. Procurement will definitely take time and will cost us more money down the road. I understand that the workers want to work on build something. Well, buy these P8s and then also get another one. We can have multi-role aircraft for the same thing. So now Bloc Québécois, they're criticizing the government's decision to buy from Boeing without looking at a proposal from Bombardier. Well, so that's what it is. Bombardier is mainly based in Quebec, so the Quebecers are, of course, upset. Seem to help Canada or Quebec's economy. Well, you haven't exactly done anything with it. For a country that supposedly has a shortage of workforce, and we can't even get people in our armed forces, What's the point of building in Canada then? So Bombardier is going to join forces with rival General Dynamics to provide the Canadian Air Force with a new multi-mission aircraft, which is a militarized version of the Global 6500 with submarine hunting technology developed in Canada. The company said it can meet whatever deadline the government reasonably sets for initial delivery, including 2030. Why don't we buy both? How hard could it be? Maybe scale back our Boeing commitment and then give these guys a shot too. That way we have 2 aircraft coming in at the same time instead of waiting year by year. The problem is if you add another bidder like Bombardier, then it's going to drag out the procurement process because then they have to submit their proposal. It takes months, and then the committee has to go through it, which takes more months, which turns into years, and then you have to give it the okay. By that time, the damn thing's going to be obsolete. By the time it's even delivered to Canada. Do the Boeing order, but also give Bombardier a chance to showcase what their plane can do and maybe buy it. Better to have more surveillance planes than anything else. We have a pretty big damn country if no one ever looked at a map. We're going to get 16 Boeing P-8A patrol aircraft. So we get 16 of these, why can't we get 8 Bombardiers? And have a mixed fleet, 24. That way we can probably provide more coverage to the Canadian waters and anywhere else we chose to be. And again, develop something that's not necessarily anti-submarine. Something that's anti-radar. We good? Or electronic jamming. Things like that we need too. So that's how I look at that situation. But again, if our Air Force can't get enough people into the Air Force, then it's not going to be worth it anyway. But anyway, that's my thoughts on that. Any Canadians out there, let me know what you guys think of the whole state of Canadian military. How should we get people to join the military? And should we go with both Boeing and Bombardier? Leave comments in the comments section. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Hit the like button. Hit the bell. I'm going to continue putting videos out. And until next time, this has been the Great White North Report.